You know, a couple of things that we talked about yesterday with the Kamala stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get back to quickly. I know we mentioned it already with the Colbert stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that I've had time to think on a little bit more. First of all, he does not. Does not do a comedian show. He does.
No, he's not funny
No.
at all anymore. He got famous as part of the Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
Doing a bit where he pretended to be Bill O'Reilly.
And he was part of like an improv troupe before this. I mean, he was. I think he was with who's the guy from The Office?
Corral?
Yeah, those guys I think were part of a crew with doing
Yeah, I don't
stuff.
know. I'm not familiar with that. I only know him from the Colbert Report, which was a bit based on him being
Right.
Bill O'Reilly kind of. He was supposed to be the conservative to the liberal Jon Stewart, but
Okay.
but the idea being it's the whole thing was silly because they're all liberals, obviously.
Well, not just
Right?
liberals.
And then he
but
did the
It's not just
yeah.
liberals, but they are flaccid liberals. Like he and his audience, these are very sensitive men. Remember, he hid in his basement during COVID and literally wore a black shirt, which afterwards he told us, by the way, I've been wearing this black shirt now for a year for COVID because of the handling of it and what Donald Trump did it to us. And the thing is, he had to tell us about the black shirt because nobody noticed.
right.
Nobody noticed. It's like that. It's like that congressman who donated his suit to
His
the
blue suit to the museum.
to the Smithsonian, and they're like, "Oh, do you want us to dry clean this? Because
I helped clean
Yeah,
up January
it's like-
6th. I'm sure you remember the famous photograph of me.
And once you do that, you can't be the alpha funny guy again and expect it to work.
Yeah, he's cried on the show
Yes.
6 times now.
That just makes it over. I think Kimmel sometimes still can be funny. Jimmy Fallon, I always thought was. I don't watch any of them. I've never seen an entire any of them, so it doesn't matter. But okay, I want to just play something that we played yesterday again, and just imagine it, and imagine how Colbert, who desperately he gets emotionally unwell when he thinks of a potential Trump presidency,
Right.
because Trump is Hitler, yada yada yada. Just think of the feeling of hopelessness he must have had during this minute and 19 seconds.
Polling shows that a lot of people, especially independent voters, really want this to be a change election, and that they tend to break for you in terms of thinking about change. You are a member of the President administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean,
So
I'm
wait,
obviously
pause
not Joe
before
Biden.
she
Hold on,
answers
hold on,
this.
hold on.
I know.
Wait before she answers this because this is her redo at this
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Because The View already asked her this
Yes.
and she messed it up.
Exactly.
She said, I can't think of any way in which I'd be different from another Biden presidency.
Right.
Administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change.
She said, "I'm obviously not Joe Biden. That would be one change." No, you're still gonna obviously not be Joe Biden in the new one. You're not him now, and you're still not gonna be him. It's like what it wasn't. She didn't mean to deliver a laugh line.
Well, I think that has been a laugh line for her. She did that during the debate, too, that line. Obviously, I'm not Joe Biden.
Right. Okay. But
So that's supposed to be, funny.
well,
No one can mix us up. I'm a black woman, get it? The change. I mean, and I think that's a true point for her. Part of what she's saying when she says it's a change election and what other people say is it's about Madam Time.
Oh, I get it.
I'm a black woman. So what else do you need for policies?
Well, right.
This is the change, is I'm a black woman and
But
Joe
the funny
Biden
thing
is
is,
not.
and this is where Colbert loses hope because he wants to hear something more.
That would be one change in terms of. But also, I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think.
But that's also not a change. She's not currently Donald Trump, and she's not going to be in a couple of months. So
True,
I
true.
just maybe I'm being petty here, but just picking up on the foundation of her thought experiment here.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like were I to be elected.
Now she's deep into Kamala word cloud. The significance of what it looks like when we look at the significance and the values and the
president, it is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature.
Is this our 7-year-old son's student council speech or somebody who's a vice president? Frankly, you know, that's like...
What are the policy differences between you and Joe Biden? I love America.
Well, first of all, I'm not Joe Biden. Second of all, I'm not Donald Trump. She figured that it worked so well with the Biden, she was going to do the Donald Trump. See?
Mm-hmm.
And then she runs out of stuff, and then she has to go to, okay, I got to use my frankly here, and I only get one of these. One frankly. Frankly, I love America. It is some of the laziest horse bleep I have ever seen. Did she, like, try cases in front of people?
So they tell us. I mean, there's not a lot of video evidence of that.
To be an ambitious people. You know, we have aspirations. We have dreams. We have incredible work ethic. And I just believe that we can create and build upon the success we've achieved in a way that we continue to grow opportunity and in that way grow the strength of our nation.
Can you define the American people and their motivations, please? We are motivated people. We are successful people. We're driven people. Wasn't the question. It's an answer to it. Just the question that didn't exist. Now, the second thing I want to get to, and we played this yesterday, was the beer.
One of the old saws is...
This is freaking so...
I don't think we did play this yesterday.
Or maybe we didn't play this one yesterday. This is awful, awful.
One of the old saws is they just want somebody they can have a beer with.
Uh-huh.
So would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell people what that's like?
By the way, what a fucking pussy he is. What a pussy. Would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell you what that's like? He even opens it like a pussy.
This was... Now, we asked ahead of time, because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You wrote Miller High Life. I'm just curious.
Okay, the last time I had beer was at a baseball game with Doug.
Okay, so cheers.
Cheers.
There you go. Ooh. That tastes like the beautiful city of Milwaukee,
the
Wisconsin.
Champagne of beers.
There you go.
She read those words for the first time. Obviously, she didn't. And by the way, I do believe that at a baseball game with Doug,
she has had a beer.
Yes, because she said, Doug, what do people do when they go to these? Which, by the way, we're not staying long at. What do people do? Well, I guess maybe they have a beer, said Doug. Maybe I'm not.
In between beating on women and
Right.
firing them for stuff he didn't like.
But here's the thing that I love is that, so they couldn't pick a Bud product because Bud's owned by Denmark or whatever. So Miller is a Miller Brewing Company is an American company.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you something. Can
you imagine being in the meeting where they had to decide what beer they were going to have?
And so what they did
request to have,
is
I'm sure it was like a scene out of Veep.
They found a beer, which is a perfectly serviceable beer. She's never had one, obviously. They found a beer that actually is almost hard to find. If you go to a packy, if you go to a liquor store, it is hard to find.
It's not like the first one that's out there.
No, you could find Miller Lite. That's light beer from Miller is out there. But to find Miller High Life, the champagne of beers...
Yeah, that's a weird one, sort of.
Well,
you'd have better luck finding like a Stella or something.
And that's more along the lines of what she would be. Stella, but I think that's foreign owned too. I think it's actually owned by the
Bud people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting that they come up with this really dead end.
But you could do a Sam Adams or something, right? Like those are, well, maybe that's just around here. Are those not everywhere?
Those are everywhere.
That's what I would assume. Like, why not like a Sam?
Well, because you've got a beer from Wisconsin.
Oh, right.
Right.
Swing
They've
state.
already-
Bad polling for her from the swing states, by the way. Did you see this?
Yeah, but we're
Quinnipiac?
gonna get to it. We're gonna get to
Okay.
it. But so I wanna contrast this pussy summit that Colbert had.
Mark in the chat says, Doug, what do people drink at these baseball matches?
Right. Oh, totally. Totally. I want to compare that to Colbert in like this total pussy summit, and this is who the Democrats are now. Okay, we need the idiots in Wisconsin to vote for us. What's idiot beer? We could use Miller, the champagne of beers they call it. The idiots call it that. Contrast that to a guy who I would say is not a pussy. As a matter of fact, I am afraid of this guy now, and he doesn't even know where I am. But he is a Bay Stater. This is the Teamsters Union President, Sean O'Brien.
Okay.
And this may mean Donna will need to be coming back at some point.
Okay.
This is who used to vote for Democrats. Listen to him
Yeah.
talk about those Democrats. Now, he's with Theo Vaughn here.
I'll be honest with you, I'm a Democrat, but they have fucked us over for the last 40 years. And for once, and not all of them, but for once, we're standing up as a union, probably the only one right now, saying, what the fuck have you done for us?
Yeah.
And I'm getting attacked from the left, and we've given, since I've been in office 2.5 years, we've given the Democratic machine $15.7 million. We've given Republicans about 340,000, truth be told. So it's like, people say the Democratic Party is the party of the working people. They're bought and paid for by big tech. Those big tech companies.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you.
Let me tell you something.
That's a pure, uncut Boston accent.
Absolutely. I have
mean,
smoked,
like,
I have
Donna can't
smoked
replicate
cigarettes
that quite.
with that guy in loading docks at several hotels in Boston during my life. You saying who isn't attractive?
No, I said whew, as in like,
Yeah.
like I don't know if
But-
Donna could quite replicate
But
that.
let me tell you
But yeah.
something. Let me tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that guy carefully and slowly opens a Miller Lite?
A Miller High Life?
Do you, no, Miller High Life, right? The champagne of beers. Do you think that he had the last time he remembers having a beer was with Doug at the baseball game, or do you think he
probably had like 12 yesterday.
Yes, before this interview. This guy, do you think he's watching Colbert?
Either that or he's in recovery and only has water now.
Oh,
One
absolutely.
of the two.
Absolutely. And falls off the wagon, and it is a night to remember whenever he does. Totally. But this is, how do Democrats, do you think this guy watches Tim Walz prance around and kick his leg up and say, folksy, like us?
Yeah, no,
They're
of
in
course
the
not.
This guy is like real. This guy represents. He is the real thing. Now,
Yeah.
so is Daggins or whatever that.
Daggett.
Daggett's a real thing too. Like, what is it culturally at all that Democrats have to say to these people, other than you're a piece of crap, especially Sean O'Brien and Daggett, because I mean, what do they have? These are men of privilege. Who are straight men, who are ridiculous, and aren't culturally superior like they are. This guy this guy doesn't have a Peloton. He doesn't. He works out with free weights with dudes somewhere. There's no doubt about that. But
Maybe not free weights, maybe barbells.
barbells, yeah, I don't even know what they're called. He's also not impressed with me. I guarantee you, absolutely, he's not impressed with me. But. This used to be,
but it is interesting.
You and I saw them,
Mm-hmm.
the local whatever, the SEIU people harassing Scott Brown in 2012, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and all coming down and yelling at the people of Melrose, like, "How rich are you? What do you make a year? You're for the rich. You're for the like." What can they possibly do to attract somebody like this? Here's a little bit more of him talking about how this works. He's an interesting guy. Now, and
it's interesting because there is, big union money in these political races.
You're about to hear about it.
This is true. Even in Massachusetts, where unions can donate, I think it's up to $50,000 to a candidate directly. And corporations and other people can't. It's all but 5 states in the entire country. corporations and unions have the same donation limits.
Right.
So there's like parity there. But unions are incredibly powerful, and they're incredibly powerful. A lot of this stuff, like people talk about this election cheating stuff and the ballot stuffing, and like a lot of that stuff is done by unions.
No, absolutely.
I mean, like that's what it was in Chicago in the 60s when they put JFK in office, essentially. Like these are a lot of union towns, these places
and
where
that's
this
before
has
the
happened.
teachers union.
Right. So, I mean, these are organizations that have put a lot of time and energy and money, but time and energy also into getting Democrats elected.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to here's Sean O'Brien again.
Take me through some of the decision and what it was like behind the scenes to make the choice not to endorse a candidate.
Well, look, the one thing that we pride ourselves on when we took over as leaders was transparency and inclusiveness, right? So when you have 1.3 million members, it's important to make certain you understand their perspective, because that's who our employer is. That's who we work for. That's who gives me the opportunity and privilege to represent them. And we went through, for the first time ever, we brought every single candidate in from the beginning. And, you know, we invited every one of them from Dr. Cornel West all the way former President Donald Trump, former President Biden, and then VP Harris, and everybody in between. RFK, who I love that guy.
I love that guy too.
That guy's awesome, man. He's the best. And we brought them all in a round table, first time ever, with rank and file members, 8 or 10 of them from various parts of the country, various political affiliations. And we asked them specific questions that were important to us. And, at the end of the day, we did the meetings there, then we did polling, straw polling, in the union halls, and then we did a electronic polling, 1.3 million of our members, QR code, where we had over 40,000 members participate, which is huge. And then we did, scientific-based polling using the Democratic pollster that the Biden-Harris campaign used. And the only poll that was favorable was the poll we did, the straw poll in the union halls, which was polling 44% Biden and 38% Trump. So the other polls were 62% Republican. And so
in favor of Trump?
In favor of Trump, yes. Even we sent the electronic polling after President Biden dropped out of the race. And look, Biden's been great for unions, working people. But the reality of it is,
he's gone.
He's gone. And again, it's like, we've got to take into consideration our members' opinions. And I don't have the beauty of leaning one way or the other. I have to represent both Democratic members and also Republican members. And quite frankly, when I spoke at the RNC, that's when the attacks started happening from the Democratic left and the Republican right.
So, and we talked about this when the Teamsters did release this polling as a CYA for themselves, because they were about to decline endorsing Kamala Harris, which they have endorsed against Trump every other time. And as you mentioned, they were Biden fans when they did the polls of their members. And that makes sense, because Biden is an old school, like Pennsylvania, Delaware kind of politician, right? Like he's never been my cup of tea, but there's a lot of people that feel like that about Biden. I remember when Joe Biden was picked by Barack Obama, Michelle McPhee on Boston radio was like, "Oh yeah, I love Joe Biden, Scrappy Joe, this, that." Like, she was all about her. She's Miss Union, cop, firefighter. Like, but that like type of vibe, those people like Joe Biden.
Right.
Because he's got that, and he doesn't always speak exactly right, but he's like, the guy who's for the working guy in the unions and whatever. Like, and that speaks to why the Democratic Party rallied behind him and kicked all the other candidates out in 2020 and put him in there.
Yes.
Over Buttigieg, over Warren, over Kamala Harris, over like all the. Well, I mean, Kamala had dropped out way before then because she never got a vote. But
you can trust. Yes, that's what makes a great point.
Because he consolidated. Hillary Clinton lost Wisconsin, lost Michigan, lost Pennsylvania, lost all these states that are really important for Democrats to win, the so-called blue wall, because she did not have the credibility with those voters in the way that, I mean, like Bernie Sanders also had credibility with those voters, by the way, because he's an original labor movement, anti-NAFTA kind of Democrat. You know what I mean? Like, and Hillary Clinton struggled with those voters all through the 2016 primaries. Right? Like, she did way better with the voters of color, way worse with the sort of traditional. Oh, did you lose audio? Judge over Warren, over Kamala Harris, over like all the. Well, I mean, Kamala had dropped out way before then because she never got a vote. But
you can trust. Yes, that's what makes a great point.
Because he can what? He consolidated.
Say it again.
He consolidated all of these different constituencies in the Democratic Party that Hillary Clinton had really struggled with, right? The like Rust Belt voters, these sort of traditional blue dog Democrats that the Democratic Party really needed that they lost to Trump in 2016, right? And so like, and Biden was the guy for that.
Well, and actually,
or Bernie,
you know what?
possibly, but Bernie had pissed off too many people in the Dem establishment. Biden had been the Washington, D.C. establishment guy for a really long time.
Who answered union phone calls
and
from
he
union
didn't,
leaders.
yeah, he didn't scare the so-called WWC, the white working class voter, right? Like, that didn't
which
scare
is why he
them.
was there in 2008, too. Because Obama's this new dude named Hussein.
Too
and
new
like,
and progressive and scary.
Exactly.
We're going to put Scrappy Joe in there. And, like, this is going to... So, and, like, this speaks to when we talked about what the Teamsters not endorsing Kamala and, like, does this matter or not matter, right? We talked specifically about this, is that this gets at the heart of the problem that Kamala Harris has, which is that male voters in particular, non-college male voters in particular, do not like or trust her. And they do not like or trust Tim Walz, and they have done nothing to resolve that problem. Those guys don't watch Stephen Colbert. They do not listen to the Call Her Daddy podcast. They do not watch The View, right? Like, they don't even probably watch 60 Minutes. I don't think. I don't know what, like, Gen X working class guys watch, but probably not 60 Minutes. But I don't know how much the Democratic Party has really wrestled with that at this point in time, because they're still seeing like okay national numbers for Kamala, and like, I don't know, if you're a Democrat, do you panic? The essentially the election models are still all portraying like a 50-50, like a coin toss, right?
Right.
Election. But I will tell you, so there was Quinnipiac polling out today. They polled Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. They have Kamala up 2 in Pennsylvania. She's been doing way better in Pennsylvania than Biden was. But they had Trump leading in Wisconsin and Michigan. And those are 2 of the states that in 2016 and 2020 were wildly off from the polls, specifically because pollsters underestimated how many white working class male voters would turn out for Donald Trump.
Right.
Specifically for that reason, pollsters screwed up the polling in Michigan and Wisconsin in past years when Trump has been on the ballot. So the fact that those are the 2 states where we're seeing Trump ahead in those Quinnipiac polls, now, that's not the same as the numbers we're seeing in other polls. But I will tell you, like, so Nate Silver's been running his model with all the polls every time, and he has his methodology, and his feeling is, like, the race has not really changed much. It's stayed around 55-45 odds for Kamala, not, like, projected outcome, but, like, odds that she'll win about 55%. But I will say that in the last week, Trump has closed the gap nationally, closed the gap in Pennsylvania, closed the gap in Michigan, closed the gap in Wisconsin, closed the gap in North Carolina, lost 1/10 of a point in Georgia, stayed the same in Arizona, gained in Nevada, gained in Florida, gained in Texas. So that overall, that's in the last week. You know, on average, probably about a half a point
Sure.
he's gained in each of those polling averages. But when we're talking about a race that's this close, that's not nothing. And, you know, one of the things about those Quinnipiac polls is they were all conducted post-VP debate, 10-3 to 10-7. And generally, you know, these are all showing a gain of 5 points for Trump in Michigan since September, which is the last time Quinnipiac polled that state. Now, Nate Silver says the Quinnipiac polls tend to be bouncy, that they're a little more volatile than other polls. But this is like almost 4,000 likely voters. That's like a good poll.
Right.
So, I mean, it's... I feel that the trend, to talk to like what Stephen Merrimack said on the chat the other day, which is like the vibe shift, the trend is definitely in a movement towards Trump phase of the race. Will that hold up for the next month? I don't know. But like that's right now, stuff is moving in a Trump direction, I would say, over the last week or so.
That fits perfectly with the two-way podcast with Mark Halpern, who's been a pundit pollster kind of guy for 30 years or so. And Sean Spicer's on this, and another guy's on this. I don't know who the other guy is, but he kind of has another side of similar information that he's getting that tells you from insiders.
The conversation I'm having with Trump people and Democrats with data are extremely bullish on Trump's chances in the last 48 hours. Extremely bullish. You think of the 7 battleground states. Which ones is Harris in danger of losing? I would say Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. I'm not saying she'll lose all 6, but she's in danger. The only one
she's
that
in
the
danger in
Democrats
Nevada
say she's
too,
not
probably.
in danger of losing is the one I never say the name of because I can't pronounce it. But it's where Las Vegas is, right? You guys agree with me? She could lose any of those 6, right? I mean, she could lose
And
all
that
7. But Democrats will tell you they're worried about those 6. They're less worried about the 7th.
Yeah.
I don't know any Trump person who says they're worried about losing any of the 7. They don't know that they don't necessarily think they're the favorite in Michigan and Wisconsin, but they're not worried about losing it.
Right.
There's not, you don't hear from them, oh my goodness. What you hear is we're moving up. What the 3 of us are hearing, we're moving up in those 2. We're gonna win at the 3 Sunbelt states, and we're stronger in Pennsylvania than she is. That to me, if the whole thing's about the Electoral College, you take any of the Rust Belt states away from her, it's very difficult for her to win. Very difficult. It's not mathematically impossible, but it probably won't happen if she loses any of them.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what they're seeing right now. And it just is a matter of feeling it. I think that...
Well, there's a momentum thing happening.
Yes, and I've heard people say, where's Donald Trump? Fine, where is Donald Trump? But at this point, if the news cycle is all Walz and Harris, then I'll take it. Because who's the voter? Who's the voter who watches Stephen Colbert every night and has for the past 5 years, who's a huge Trump guy? All the guy does is bitch and moan. Like, there are none.
No, there are 0 regular Colbert viewers who love Donald Trump. Like, I can't picture that person.
There are 0 View voters. Now,
right. Who is that? Who would possibly be sitting here watching The View and, like, love Donald Trump? Who's going to be convinced by Kamala going on there?
No, and the same thing with Howard Stern.
Who's like, I loved Donald Trump, but, you know, now that you've put up with the tough questioning from Joy Behar, I'm all in Kamala.
Howard Stern is now a guy who's an apostate to the working people that made him rich and famous. He's now a Hamptons guy, you know? He hates them.
Well, and he's gone full psycho with, like, the COVID stuff.
That's it.
And
He
Trump, and, like, he's fully insane.
Well, yes. Yes.
He's lost it. Like, he's grandma now. It's incredible the level to which he's like, it's funny how some people who are so edgy, right? Like, he made a career out of being incredibly edgy. I mean, he's out there in blackface. Like, what are you going to say about that now?
Well, right.
It's
But
hard for me to understand, like, how you go from that to this.
Ted
Like,
Danson
it just requires so much core dishonesty about yourself and what you find funny to like not even address that and just like wipe it from the
Well, he
universe
says it
and
didn't
try and
happen.
pretend it didn't happen.
And his
But it's
friendly-
out there.
Well, but the friendly cast of The View didn't hold him to it.
Of course.
Yeah. By the way, here's CNN panicking about just what we were talking about.
We have some new CNN reporting today about what is going on behind the scenes inside the Harris campaign and more broadly among Democrats who are growing more and more anxious about a 2016 redux. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez joins me now. Priscilla, we were just joking here at the table that anxious Democrats happen on a day that ends in Y. But this is something that perhaps is warranted given the data that they're seeing. Explain your great reporting.
Yeah, look, that's exactly right, Dana. And this has been a campaign that was described by multiple Democrats, allies, aides, to the vice president as a good vibes campaign. But what's also creeping in now is that anxiety. The reason for that is because these polls are not really moving. Despite multiple battleground blitzes, despite the opportunities she has had across media outlets, there is still not a lot of movement from voters who are moving more towards her versus former President Donald Trump. In fact, I had one source describe it to me this way, quote, people are nervous. They know the polls are tight. And a lot of us are having these flashbacks to 2016, too. We know when it can go the wrong way and it can still feel fresh. So 2016 is the key here. When I've talked to Harris campaign officials, it often comes up in conversation. Where did Hillary Clinton have her pitfalls? And where can they make up that ground and build on what Joe Biden did in 2020? One of those, to give you an example, is those red and rural districts. Look at, for example, Cambria County in Pennsylvania. Now, former President Donald Trump won in that county, but the former President Biden was able to gain some ground there, more than Hillary Clinton had in 2016. The vice president has already visited twice. And so that is the type of strategy that they're trying to deploy to try to make up that ground where they saw Hillary Clinton wasn't able to in 2016. Then, too, there's the mobilizing. Talk to Democrats. They're always pretty boastful about their ground game, and they continue to be so, but that needs to turn into votes. So certainly some anxiety and nerves setting in as Election Day gets closer and those polls are just remain deadlocked.
Really important reporting.
So there you go. Yes, they are getting nervous about something. The fact that things
Of course,
aren't
and the fact is that 2016 with Hillary Clinton, at this time in 2016, she was leading by more than 5 points in all
Yes.
the polling averages. So, like, there was not the same level of fear in 2016.
Yes.
Like, Kamala's way closer to Trump than 2016 was, certainly closer than 2020. And 2020
also-
ended up being freaking close.
Yes, you know they say sometimes the voters don't start paying attention till September, till people are back from summer. Well, that is true also for voters who voted in 2020. Many voters are just meeting Kamala now,
Of course.
and just hearing her and seeing her right now. And
I mean, don't you remember the old, like, jaywalking segments where they
course.
would ask people, like, people don't even know who the vice president is a lot of times.
right,
Like,
no, yes,
that's just the reality.
right, and so Joe Biden, even though he lost support, he was a known commodity. They don't know this lady. They certainly know Trump. They know
Right.
Trump.
And they know the Biden presidency, which she's been a part of, has not been good to them.
Right.
But they don't know anything about her beyond that. And every time she does an appearance, it gets worse. So Steve from Merrimack in the chat says Stern saved his career from Me Too and blackface by going full moon bat.
Yeah.
He said he was a loyal high school listener, and he's 56 now, and that Stern has used the N-word at least 5,000 times. So, I mean, yeah, but that's the thing is that, like, he's one of these people, and I always forgot because I always get Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon mixed up because they're the two Jimmys that do late night shows. But the one that did the Man Show,
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel.
We
Kimmel,
have some new
like,
CNN
same thing
reporting.
is that it's just like they just go completely psycho to make sure that nobody looks back at all the other stuff that they did.
Yeah. Although I do
Like,
think
you did girls jumping on trampolines, and you're gonna freaking cry
I
at
liked
us
that
about
show
Me Too.
and the girls on trampolines. I mean, talk about straight up good old fashioned like masculine stuff.
Oh no, that's like illegal now, though.
It's
can't...
funny because like Corolla fought the Tide.
Mhm.
Corolla, he's a tough guy anyway, and he fought against the cultural bullying and just said, "F it, I'm
Well,
going
I
to do my own
think
thing."
there's a reason why, like, a lot of people from that era of comedy have become sort of, maybe not exactly conservatives, but sort of culturally conservative. So, like, not just Corolla, but obviously around the same, like, man show early 2000s era, like, I was watching, was it Fear Factor that Joe Rogan hosted? And, like, it took me so long to even realize that Joe Rogan from the podcast was the same as, like, the guy who
Yeah.
hosted Fear Factor.
Right, same
Because
here.
I didn't even put it together. But, like, that whole era of, like, TV shows and reality TV and the girls next door, and, like, there was so much of it. Like, a lot of those people have now
You know
sort
that
of become
Corolla was on the Man
conservatives.
Show too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you were just a little tyke then.
Yeah, but do you remember Tequila?
Yeah, I liked her. We liked her.
She
at
went
Intercom.
really, like, Nazi-ish, actually.
Oh, did
like,
she?
Like Charlottesville martyr level. Like,
Oh, yeah. I
Like
was at
Hitler mustache jokes, kind of like Nazi-ish. Yeah.
Oh, really? Uh-huh.
I mean, like, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like the early 2000s reality TV era was like such a wild west that it did like bring out a lot of people who later would turn out to be sort of like conservative. Weirdly.
Yes, that's absolutely true. There's no doubt about that. All right, we're going to get to the chat.
All
chat,
right,
and
all
then
right.
Maybe Patreon. We've also got to get a kid.
Depending how much time the
This
chat
video, so
chat
you gotta-
takes,
we gotta
let's
get our
see
kid
how
out.
let's see how angry the chat chat is.
So what's the deal with Steve from Merrimack? The guy thinks that he is funny, but have you ever laughed at one of his jokes? And also, what is the deal with Steve from Merrimack being a hypocrite? He likes to talk about others being self-centered, but he,
You know who
This
this
is Andy
is?
Rooney.
Yes, it's Andy Rooney.
Andy Rooney has called into the chat chat. I know.
he is the guy who defines it. Thank you.
Wow, Andy Rooney, just full frontal attack on Steve from Merrimack.
Wow.
My goodness. You ever notice? Okay.
I still remember seeing one that was like about magazines and
Yeah.
how there was like too many advertisements before you flip to the table of contents. You have to flip through 3-4 pages before you.
Why do people have a rubber band drawer?
I told you folks that the more Trump forced Kamala to be out there talking, the less likely people were going to be to vote for her.
Yep.
And boy, is she just proving to be the biggest dummy who failed upward. That is just, and I shouldn't complain because the new CEO of our company is just a complete dimwit.
Really?
And, whatever.
Name the company.
It's just how life is. But I wanted to ask you, I think you guys both vote in person. This year I
Typically, yeah.
chose to vote by mail. And someone on Facebook posted that they already got their ballot, and I'm still waiting for mine.
Oh.
They live in Beverly, so I'm not certain if they're coming soon. I know they're going to be in soon. But and I did that because my dad is 89, and I said to him, Dad, you can vote by mail. We don't have to drive over there. And I want to get his vote in early, just in case, hedge your bets. So anyway, just wondering if you had heard anything about early by mail-in voting, or if you do it or whatever.
I feel like we
Okay,
got
bye.
the things to request it.
We did. I threw them out today. Yeah, we did absolutely.
Yeah.
I threw them out today, by the way. Oh, go ahead, Alice.
We usually vote in person. Although I will tell you, in 2020, we got them for the people who moved out of here in 2018.
Yeah.
So.
So I would assume Massachusetts would have the mail-in voting ballots out there, but
Yeah, I
don't
think
know.
it depends when you request it, because you can like request them up to a certain deadline date, and then they get it back to you, and then you have until a certain date to get it back to them.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of time before you got to panic, but that does remind
There's
me.
also like literal early voting
It
where you
does-
go in person, but it's before election day.
But that does remind me of going through all the mail today, looking for my needle in a haystack, which I have found. This is Tom Shattuck's. I have to cover it here. This is Tom Shattuck's EBT card. Amazing. I've been getting these text messages for weeks and weeks saying you better start, activate your EBT card, get your EBT card going, EBT card. I'm like, I assumed it was spam or whatever. And then today I noticed I got some emails saying, hey, your summer EBT card is going to expire, so make sure you activate it and spend the money. And I was like, I asked the people on radio, have you guys ever heard of this? And a friend of mine in radio said, yeah, I got a bunch of them for my kids. If your kid gets to lunch, you get EBT money. I'm like, holy hell. And then today I noticed that in the Herald, Howie had tweeted a column about 657,000 Massachusetts people getting EBT cards.
Mm-hmm.
One
of them was Tom
Shattuck. I just found it today. I have filed to get my case number.
I told you, I think it's because one of
this.
our kids goes into school and claims to be hungry, so they give him breakfast.
Dude, you get $120 per kid.
I thought you said 140.
Or 120 or 140. Either way, that's times 4 for us. I am a welfare queen as of today. As soon as I activate this bitch, I cannot wait. Hopefully it goes through, because I have said I've submitted to get my case number, which I'm supposed to need. By the way, I will be lying if they want
income.
Yes, I'll be lying about everything. I am getting mine. Okay, is that okay, Alice? Can I recoup some of my tax money, or is it only Walmart that gets protection from you? By the way, the coffee carafe is still downstairs. I still don't want to throw it away. In case you get hit by a truck tomorrow, I am authorized. All your authoritarian rules go away.
The not stealing authoritarian rule.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Alice and Tom, I apologize for the F-bombs on yesterday's show. It won't happen again. I don't want you, A, to get demonetized, or B, to have to re-listen to it, or whatever you have to do.
To take 5 minutes to go back and bleep out this.
Well, this time, today, it's Sean O'Brien. I got to clean up.
And bleep them out, so it won't happen again.
Steve, it's fine.
Another thing, has anyone else noticed that the person who apparently, quote, left the chat a couple of weeks ago has recently left, I believe, his 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th messages, which, by the way, this guy's out of bullets. I mean, that last message where even Alice was going, I don't understand the attack on this. I mean, I should clarify that. He's out of his uninteresting bullets. Thank you. And I'm going to make a prediction for.
Well, but Steve, unfortunately, you didn't get to hear. Now you've heard the Andy Rooney attack on you, which is.
That was Andy Rooney. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Today's show. The next show, the next Burn Battle.
Mm-hmm.
That after Steve heard me describe him as a Bindlestiff mendicant parasite from Gloucester, that he raced to his dictionary to look up what all three of those words mean. And then he searched for synonyms to those words. But first he had to look up what synonym meant. And he's going to open his message today, at least one of his inanities, with 3 synonyms describing me. And this is because this is an American original. Like, this guy is like Chris Christopherson. Just the mind, the steel trap mind of this guy.
I'm sensing sarcasm, Alice. I'm not sure.
I thought the Andy Rooney message was kind of funny.
With his original content. It's incredible. So this is the last message I'll leave on the individual from Gloucester, and I will stick to that because I'm getting bored. I'm sure the audience is bored.
No way.
Because he's boring.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you.
My goodness, what a shot.
Wow.
So, looking at past results in Massachusetts, Trump got 32.5% of the vote in 16 and in 20. This year, with Kamala being so dreadful, do you think that he can get more than 35% of the vote?
No.
Somewhere close to 40? He's not going to win the state, but do you think he can do better than he did in 16 and 20?
I think he does worse. I think if he breaks 30, it's a
Yeah,
for him. Too many people keep moving out of the state to Florida and New Hampshire and Tennessee and other places where there's freedom. And the people who are left here are more psychotic than ever.
Oh, yeah. And
I think people here are crazier and more excited.
Charlie Baker Republicans don't want any trouble. Are we doing lawn signs, by the way? Because everybody is on the street is Harris Walls. I mean, there's one within 3 miles within 2 miles. Somebody
told me there's 2 on Crane Neck. Trump signs.
Oh, okay. But this street.
Our street, yeah. I mean, there's not that many. There's like the
surprised that-
one, yeah.
Well, are we doing them?
I think I don't know. Such a trade-off because it could have hurt our kids' social life.
Yes, indeed.
Good night, you princes of Maine, you kings of New England.
Is that Palpatine? Who is that?
That is.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey.
I was forced at basically at gunpoint last night to watch CNN for several segments on the couch with Mrs. Steve.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually not that bad. Maybe it's like a Haley's Comet thing that like once every 75 years CNN has a good segment, but it was during Abby Phillips' show, who, by the way, I find very attractive. She's really pretty.
Correct.
And it was a roundtable discussion with about 5 other people, 2 of whom were Republicans. One, that guy Scott Jennings, who everybody seems to like, and
we like
another
him.
guy named Scott Miller. And I have to be candid, it was great.
Good.
Like, I think even the Democrats on the panel, or the Moonbats on the panel, are in agreement that Kamala Harris is terrible. And the Republicans just kept making their points, and people were in agreement with them.
Yeah.
And Abby Phillips actually asked, like, really good questions.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, and I started laughing just because I thought I was watching Fox News. And at one point, my wife was like, hey, what's so funny? I'm like, nothing. I'm really enjoying this. And she's like, well, I've had enough. I'm going up. And I was like, I consider this a personal victory. I sat through CNN, didn't make a single comment. And it was such a good segment. She actually had to leave.
Wow.
Oh, my God. This is a great day.
I feel like we just got a lot of insight into Steve's marriage dynamic.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely see it. But that'd be interesting to have that political friction. You're the only, well, really, since it mattered, the only one who I dated big progressives before you, really. But yeah, that is interesting. And Abby Daniela Phillips, which makes her even more attractive,
nice name.
is very attractive. And yeah, I don't watch any of the stuff live, Steve, but I do watch all of the Scott Jennings stuff.
Whatever ends up on Twitter.
Exactly.
Yeah, you see.
Exactly. So yeah, no, that's good to hear. I mean, I guess we do. When we watch debates and stuff, CNN is where we go.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously MSNBC is just going to be full lunacy all the time.
Right.
Like, you can't really, like, judge anything by that. But CNN does tend to have, like, kind of a mix, right?
Yes.
And, you know, Fox, if I, like, need comfort, I go to Fox, right? Like, when things are going better, I'll jump to MSNBC. I still sometimes will watch the YouTube videos of the MSNBC and CNN coverage from election night 2016 because I don't know. It's sort of fascinating to like time capsule back to that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's funny how things have changed too, because you go back to like 1998, MSNBC was the go-to. For me, it was a go-to. Laura Ingraham was on there for a bit. Michael Savage was on there.
Where was Greta on originally?
Well, Court TV originally, and then she was CNN, I think.
Because she was another one who was like on lefty stations. I feel like
yeah. Although I wouldn't really consider her much of a political person.
Right, she's sort of.
But I mean, Chris Matthews was really good in the late '90s, and although he was a Democrat, he was just slaying Clinton. He was just absolutely fantastic.
So did Tom say one of his male role models growing up was Gary Glitter? Or am I making this up? I have no idea.
Yeah, you do. You know the song though. They used to play it in the Patriots, and all the NFL teams used to play his song. And then some trouble arose, and then you wouldn't play Gary Glitter anymore for P. Diddy reasons. I think was the thought at that point. He was not a role model for me growing up. No, Gary Glitter was not a role model for me growing up. I was a John Lennon guy, absolutely John Lennon guy.
Birthday.
Yeah. Oh, today. Yeah, right. I used to actually, because John Lennon got in fights in school. I used to, in 8th grade, I tried to instigate a couple of fights. One, I attacked a kid and he didn't get hurt, and the second one, me and another guy attacked a kid and he became a honey badger and retaliated, and we ended up sprinting away. So those are my that was my role model in the 90s.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
I forgot to mention in my message about the Abby Phillips show.
Yeah.
That everybody else seems to agree. Am I right that Kamala's answer on The View about how she couldn't think of a thing, nothing comes to mind that the Biden administration could have done better, is an all-time historically bad answer?
Yeah.
I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
She is so horrendously bad. She can't think of, nothing comes to mind because there is no mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, she can't think of anything to do better because she can't think of anything to do about any of these things.
Well, right.
She'll do worse at some of them,
you
probably.
could not think of a better combination of words to nuke your own campaign than that.
So, and it's early days yet. She has many more media appearances to go if she needs to clean up the messes that she's created with this latest batch of media appearances. So we'll see how the polling is after this latest batch in the next couple weeks. But yeah, if I were a Democrat, I'd be panicking right about now if I think Trump is like an existential threat. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, head to burnbarrelpodcast.com. If you want to listen ad-free, patreon.com/burnbarrel.
Mind your own damn business.